What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in this week as we take 6 kayaks that I bought under $500 and go hit the water. I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback. We're going to talk about features, ergonomics, stability, comfort, and hopefully give you guys a rough idea of what you can expect when you're buying a kayak under $500 from a box store. All these boats here I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods. I mentioned in the last video, but I paid retail. They're not endorsing me in whatever way. I just happened to have a Dick's in town and they have the best kayak selection, so that's what I did. I'm out here at Lodi Lake today. This is our boathouse facility. This is where we do all our rentals, tours, lessons, full moon trips. This is sort of the home base for us these days. So the first boat I'm going to jump in and check out today is a Pelican Mustang XT12. I reviewed the 10 last year and I really enjoyed it, but I'm always a fan of a longer boat, so I'm excited to hop in the 12-footer here and see how it does. When I step in the boat, the first thing I notice is the flex of the hull. Again, Pelicans aren't known to be the most stiff kayaks. The way they're made with thermoformed polyethylene, they tend to have a bit more flex. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to crack or break, but it does mean that you got to watch it. If it gets hot, it's going to get a little noodly. How you store it is important. You don't want to just leave it on sawhorses. It will definitely develop warps in the hull. But all in all, I don't have a lot of people complaining about these things breaking on them. One thing to note about this boat is it doesn't have adjustable foot pedals. It's got fixed foot pedals. So like if I'm here, my knees are way too tight. Here, my legs are a little straightened out. You should sit in these in the store and make sure that it works for your size. So easy. So the reason I chose to do this video at Lodi Lake is a couple things. It's very flat, very calm. It's not a very deep lake. It's also warm water. So this is a great spot for a kayak like this. This is not a great kayak for open water use, like say up in the Sound or somewhere where you have cold water, or water where if you fall in, you know, you have to do a rescue in order to be safe. This isn't a kayak that you can easily do a rescue on. I saw one of these flipped over at Whiskeytown Lake the other day, and they had a boat and a bunch of people in a boat trying to rescue the person, and they could not get this kayak flipped over and the water emptied out. So again, close to shore kayak, you don't want to flip this thing further than you want to swim it to shore. Really any of the sit-in sides without bulkheads. That goes for any of the kayaks that we'll review today. So a lot of times I hear people talk about they want a shorter boat. They like the idea of a smaller, lighter, it fits in my car better, it fits in my garage better, whatever the case might be. Or I am a smaller person, I just need a shorter boat. That's really not the case, you guys. Longer boats are going to provide better paddling, better glide, better tracking. You may sacrifice a few pounds off the water, but really they're not that much harder to transport. And your paddling performance in a longer boat is actually quite a bit better. The boat wants to glide through the water. It wants to track and go straight. The first thing I notice about this boat is when I'm paddling, it doesn't want to weeble wobble. I have people tell me all the time, like, hey, it's not about the speed for me. I'm out there just to see nature and exercise. I get that. That is a valid point, and I understand that. But after years and years of paddling, I will say the efficiency and the work you're putting in is going to make kayaking either more or less enjoyable. I kind of equate it to gas mileage in a car. If you're in a car that gets 40 miles per gallon, it's easier to drive further with less effort. If you're in a car that gets 12 miles per gallon, you're going to be stopping a lot more often for fuel, and it's going to be more expensive. Your body is your fuel tank. The longer boat is just going to give you better gas mileage. You're going to be able to go further with less effort and less strain on your body. If you want to get a workout, you could just paddle a little faster and you'll get the same workout, but you'll go a lot further and be spending less time fighting with your kayak, keeping it going straight. Let's talk stability. This kayak, being 12 foot, means it has a little bit more volume and it gives the kayak quite a bit more stability. The 10-foot version of this kayak wasn't unstable, but the 12-footer feels even more stable. So what you're looking at when I talk stability, it's paddler weight versus kayak volume. If the kayak has a weight capacity of, say, 200 pounds, I use a 60% rule. You don't want to be more than 60% of that kayak's weight capacity. So if the weight capacity of the kayak is 200 pounds, you don't want to be any more than, say, like 120 pounds. Now, if the kayak's 400 pound capacity, you're probably okay at like 240 pound person. So that's just a general rule. There's always caveats or exceptions to that rule, but it's a good rule if you're in the box store looking and you just see, you know, a random number, you know, 275 pound capacity. What's that really like? Do the math. It's 60% of the boat's overall capacity is roughly the paddler weight that it'll be ideal for. Just adjust my backrest a little bit. Sitting nice and upright in this boat, it feels pretty good. Now you'll notice I'm not sitting back and lounging. This isn't like a barca lounger. I really want to have an upright paddling posture when I'm kayaking. So what I tell people to do is think about rotating your hips forward, pushing your butt all the way in the back of that seat. That's where having good foot pedals to support your body comes in. And then you can take your straps, kind of crank your seat down so it provides a nice upright paddling position. So as you paddle, you can rotate, you can use your core and have a lot more power. Whereas if I'm back here, I tend to use my arms, and your arms are a smaller muscle group. They wear out a heck of a lot faster than if you're using your core. See how I'm pushing with my top hand, pulling with my bottom. The top hand's open and pushing across. That rotation will allow you to paddle faster, further, with less effort. So what I'm doing here is just a little maneuverability test. I'm giving it a few backward sweep strokes, a couple of forward sweep strokes. And how much effort does it take to turn this kayak? A lot of people like short boats because they spin really easy. But realistically, if you're paddling a lot of the time, most of the time, you're trying to go straight. But there is times where you need that kayak to maneuver around. This one is a little slower to come around than a 10-footer, for sure. You got 2 more feet of keel sitting down in the water. But if you use a good stroke, it's not too bad to come around. When I'm doing sweep strokes, or when I'm talking about sweep strokes, what I mean is I'm really rotating toward the back of the boat, planting the paddle at the back. And you see how my torso is rotated with the boat? Put the paddle in the water and do a big kind of rainbow up to the front. That's a reverse sweep stroke. Forward sweep stroke's the same. I rotate, catch the water at the front of the kayak. You see how my paddle staying parallel to my chest? Spinning around. So not as maneuverable as a lot of 10-footers, but the speed and glide to me far outweighs the maneuverability. So my review of this one, if I was looking at box store kayaks, I would definitely go for the 12-footer over the 10-footer. The speed, the glide, the stability for a guy my size is all way, way better. And I'm gonna jump in that 10-footer next with the chair and kind of give you the feedback. But I will say the seat on this one is very comfortable. I feel like I'm a little bit up off the bottom of the boat. The seat back hits me right underneath my life jacket. It feels more than comfortable. I could be in this one all day. Next up, we're gonna hop in the Pioneer. This is very similar hull design to the Mustang I was just in, just with upgraded features. Same foot pedals, same manufacturing process. This one has adjustable foot pedals. I just hopped in and noticed this. These actually have adjustment. You pick them up and you can slide them back to where they need to be. A little bit more adjustment to dial yourself into the boat as opposed to the molded in ones on the other. Let's see if I can do this just with my toes. Yeah, not bad. Okay. So this one's definitely more adjustable. I can get my knee position just where I want it to be, and it'll probably fit a larger variety of people. Now the next thing is the seat. It's got the lawn chair. The first thing I notice is I feel like I sit up just a touch more as opposed to the other kayak. Like I'm a little bit closer to the cockpit, and being tall, I don't know, it makes me feel just a little bit more top heavy, but let's hit the water and see how it really feels. Paddle. Whoa, first thing I notice, that boat just turns, like compared to that 12-footer. See how every stroke I take, the boat wants to wobble back and forth? The 12-foot doesn't do that. And when you only know 10, that's all you know. But man, I'll tell you right now, a 12-footer, it just went so much straighter. That's the first thing I noticed, the first stroke I take. So your effort is going to making the boat do this as opposed to making it go forward. The more keel the boat has, keel's the center line of the boat that keeps it going straight. The more keel it has, the straighter it's going to go with less effort. It's not bad. Once I stop paddling, it straightens out and goes straight. But the 12-footer was definitely better. The other thing I notice when I'm reviewing kayaks is how much noise do I hear coming off the bow. As I push through the water, how much water is splashing off it. That kind of gives me a feeling of how efficient the kayak is, how easy it moves through the water. And the 12-footer definitely has less noise. Let's listen. But this is where we really notice the difference. Watch this. You know, I was doing this reverse sweep strokes. Almost 180 degrees with one stroke. That's pretty cool. So if I was in a river where I need to like make moves, and it's maybe some tighter water, the maneuverability is really fun. The downside is you're sacrificing speed in order to gain that. I'm glad I didn't lose my phone right there. The stability still feels pretty good. You know, I was worried about the seat being elevated up. Now that I'm on the water, doesn't feel a whole ton different. It's slightly less stable than the 12-footer. Again, if I was 240, I would go with the 12, but at 215, 220, this one feels just fine. Feels like I have plenty of volume. Honestly, it's just like the Mustang 100 that I reviewed in last year's video. It's got a bigger seat. The other things are, it's got the cup holder mounted to the inside. Right there, that's the little cup holder that's mounted to the inside. It's got track mounts up here in the front, so I can add pole holders, little things like that, rod holders in the back, and then a hatch with a waterproof bag inside. I don't have a ton of experience with the waterproof bag, so if you guys do, tell me how waterproof it is. It kind of seems like a cool concept. It actually opens up and they got the little waterproof bag. Definitely more feature rich, you know, the adjustable foot pedals, the better padding, all those things are nice, subtle little upgrades from the Mustang 100 or the Mustang 120. I will say though, the paddling performance of the Mustang 120 is still superior. So if you're buying this boat, you're buying it because of all the Gucci features, not necessarily because the paddle's better. One thing I got to give to Pelican is they make a good looking boat. I really like the color patterns they're using. They're using, you know, varieties of different colors. It's got that white hull, which kind of gives it a little classier look. Not that you're buying a kayak for how you look in it, but they do a good job with their accents and their details to make their boats look nice. All right, I thought I would try the camera mount that they give you. It actually fits my big iPhone sideways. I put it in the wide angle mode, so hopefully you guys can see what's going on. But that's the stock camera mount. It's funny that 3 of these boats come with camera mounts. It's, you know, and I think the Pelican is really kind of pushing that envelope. I think it's the 3 Pelicans that all have the cell phone mounts so you can film. Pretty cool. So next up is the Blitz 100X. This is the new sit-on top that I found this year. Pretty excited about this one actually because, again, like things I didn't like about the one last year was the low seat. This one's got a nice high seat back. It's got the same molded pedals as they had on the Mustang. Awesome color. Look at that, looks cool. So Pelican does a good job. So compared to the Bandit I reviewed last year, I wasn't a huge fan of. I think this is a great upgrade. All right, so I'm in here. You can see this one I fill out quite a bit more. I'm all the way at the end of the foot pedals and I still have a little bend in my knee. So if you're real tall, maybe you could put your feet out here, but it feels kind of short. I wish they had a 12-foot version of this kayak. Probably good for smaller people, but you know, it feels a little snug. But let's hop in and see how it does. Again, with the selfie mount, if I wanted to like FaceTime my wife, I could just pop that in there and it got a little mount. I went over all the features in the last videos. If you guys haven't watched that one yet, I highly recommend you go check out the walkthrough I did of all 6 of these kayaks. I'm not going into a bunch of details in this video. I'm more trying to talk about how they paddle, how stable they feel, that sort of thing. All right, here we go. So first thing I like to do is check, where's the water at? This is kind of interesting. Again, I'm not a huge guy, about 200 pounds, but see that water? 200 pounds, 220 pounds, and look at where the water's at. As far as the weight rating goes, on paper, I should be able to fit me and tons of gear. But in all actuality, I am maxing this out. That is water at the top of the scuppers. If I had a dry bag full of another 30 pounds of gear, that thing's gonna just start filling with water. See that? Even if I just give it a little bit of lean to the side, water starts coming in. Not that that's a huge deal, it just makes for a wetter ride. Things I do love, that high back seat is sweet. You know, when to sit on top, you don't have the support of sitting down low. You're kind of up on top a little bit more. So it requires more back support as opposed to a sit inside where you've got the outside of the boat to kind of support yourself, or you can put your knees underneath. A sit on top, you just tend to lean back a little bit more. I still want to sit as upright as I can and get that thing adjusted up, but the high back support definitely makes it feel more comfortable. If I had to, you know, get my friends and my family out in a kayak that I don't want to worry about them flipping over, getting water in, this is a good one for that. Like my kids love to climb on the kayak, shove each other off, and just see who can stay on. I've got a couple of boys. This is a kayak I wouldn't worry about it on. So definitely a good family boat, good loaner boat if you're gonna let friends take it out. Let's go give it a paddle. Stability wise, it has a little touchy primary, but the secondary is really, really good. It just locks on the edge. Secondary and primary, I should talk about that, I guess. Primary stability is how stable is the boat when it's just flat. A lot of boats are really heavy on primary, so it feels really stable when you get on it, but then they kind of will go if you hit the secondary. This one, as I lean it over, it gets more and more stable. So it makes a kayak feel a little bit more playful or lively when you have a good secondary and a little lighter primary. If you're bigger, you lose a little bit of that primary and a little bit of that secondary. So the higher you are in your weight, it makes a difference. If you're over 220 pounds, I'd love to hear your review and your feedback. It's always good to hear from you guys in the comment section. The last comment section on the under 300 video was phenomenal. Everyone chimed in, shared their thoughts. Again, this is only one perspective. This is just my perspective. There's a lot of people that are out there using these boats that have had them for a year, spent a lot more time in them than I have, and I value those opinions as well. I encourage you to leave those in the comment section. Kind of a similar feeling to last year. The sit on top push a little bit more water. The other thing, and I talked about this last year, is when I stop paddling, you see what happens there? Let's do that again. We'll get a little speed going. And then when I stop, watch the boat. It starts turning. And it just accelerates into the turn. When I refer to tracking, that's what I'm talking about. How much effort am I having to put in to just keep this boat going straight? This particular boat, it's okay, but in a windy situation, that rear end is going to want to swing around. A lot of times on sit-on-tops, they put more air buoyancy behind the boat. So if I look at the profile of the boat, a little narrower in the front, a little wider in the back. So it's meant to have a little bit of weight behind me, but without that weight, it does feel a little bit loose. Not bad, but... So next up is the revamped Field & Stream's blade. This one was one of my favorites last year. The only complaint I had was that small cockpit. So let's get in here and see how it fits. You know what? You know what? Look at that. It doesn't. Last year, it literally hit me in the shins the whole time. This year, I've got, 4 fingers worth of room. Could they have changed that? I mean, they did do different things on the deck. Maybe they pushed that forward a couple inches. I'm super happy about that. Because I love this kayak, but that was my only gripe, is that it was just sort of snug to fit in. Now, it feels like it fits me really nice. It fits me just like the Mustang did. Maybe a little tighter, but 6'2", 34-inch legs, no problem. Still have room to go on the foot pedals too. I could go down a couple more notches if I wanted to. The hacks is easy enough to access up here. If I needed to get in and out of there, totally could. Got the bungee. Very cool. It's got the seat adjustment here on the side. Crank that down, it lifts me up and gives me a little bit more back support. And you can see it still seems a little tight, but all in all, not bad. I'm definitely not clipping my shins like I was last year. Oh, nice. Pretty comfortable seat, definitely nice and squishy thigh pads on this one. I'm noticing already, because this boat's been sitting in the heat all day, that the thigh pads are starting to lift up a little bit. It's the first day out and it's already starting to do that. Chances are that thing might start peeling off. So the wind's starting to pick up a little bit, and that's always a good thing on a review, because kayaks do different stuff in the wind. Some kayaks will paddle great on just flat, calm water, but then when the wind picks up, they get blown around. The blade does not. The blade has a really nice defined keel. It has a V-shaped bottom with really wide, hard edges. So primary on this boat feels really good. Secondary on this boat feels awesome. Really nice and stable, really good tracking. Same hull design as last year, and I'm still a fan. And now I even enjoy it more because it's got more room, it's got more features. It's got the little zipper stash compartment inside here that I can put different stuff in. It did jump up in price, and I know people were gonna be all upset about that, but at least they didn't raise the price without adding features and benefits. I think they really dialed in the boat, and it was probably like their first boat that they put out, and they refined it to make it better. Again, on the last video, I kind of shot myself in the foot by buying it on sale. I did pay $159 for the last one. I paid, I don't know, $350 or something like that for this one. I'll leave all that in the description. But I still feel like if I'm comparing it to those other boats at the same price point, it's right up there. I would still buy this over that Pelican, the 10-foot Pioneer, just because of how nice this thing paddles. Tracks well, yet if I want to maneuver it, a couple of good strokes. And that Pelican, I was able to do a 180 with one stroke. This one, not quite, but it's not necessarily a good thing if you're just paddling flat water. You want the boat to go straight. Wild irises are all in bloom out here at the lake right now. It's so pretty. All the birds are making their nests up in the cottonwood trees. You kind of have it all to myself. I saw 2 other kayakers, a couple other paddleboarders. Other than that, just me. I've been paddling this thing for about 15 minutes. And it just doesn't quite want to support me. I can feel the seat sort of crumbling. Let's get out and have a look at this. Yes, I'm not sure what the deal is. You can see it's sort of kind of flexing right here where the strap goes, but as I sat in it, it kept wanting to like fold down and do that. Like no matter how tight I got it forward, it always wanted to flex. It's not the same seat as I demoed last year. The last one was more supportive. That's a bummer because the seat is everything in a kayak. And I was actually surprised. Both these seats, this was super comfortable. This one was pretty comfortable, you know, definitely supportive, but that was actually my favorite seat. The Mustang, I thought the blade was going to just smoke it this year because I liked it so much last year. I was disappointed the seat just wasn't quite as good. I think the durability of the kayak is better, but things like I was showing you here, these guys, you know, look, that's already starting to peel off a little bit. That is just going to continue to do that over time. Over here on the Pelican, you can see how much more permanently attached these are. These are kind of clipped on. Or here, they're actually pinned in. They're not just stuck on. So gosh darn, man, there's no clear answer. There's things I like about them both. I love the construction on this one, but I like some of the build quality on this one better. Definitely as far as paddling performance goes, this one is really nice compared to the 10-footer. I like the blade better, but the 120, I felt like it paddled better than both of these boats. Next up, we got a couple of the sit-on tops. We got the Lifetime Kuna, I hope I'm saying that right, and the Teton. Let's jump in them. So here we've got the Kuna. This is the cheapest kayak that I bought, 250 bucks. Also by far the most simplified kayak. It's also 10 foot long. I believe it's 30 inches wide. I'll leave those stats in the description. First thing getting in, all these kayaks have been sitting in the sun, so I'm noticing quite a bit of flex. Like watch this right here when I sit down. Next thing I notice, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is the molded foot pedal. This is the problem with molded foot pedals. It's all about being adjusted to your kayak. In here, my legs are straight out. That's not comfortable. It's gonna put tons of pressure on my lower back. But here, my knees are way up. Dang it. Like I'll probably paddle here, but stretch my legs out. Sit in these boats in the store before you buy them, you guys. I wouldn't buy this boat for me just because of that. I also noticed the little foot pedals on here. They're kind of small. Like they just hit the edge of my foot. They don't necessarily fit my whole foot. It's not terrible, but the Pelican was better. And last but not least, this is probably the most important thing, is that backrest. Watch when I put my weight against it. It just wants to fall back. That sucks. Because most everyone, especially if you don't have good support with your feet, you gotta lean back on it somewhere. You want it to engage good posture, but it's gonna take some support in order to stay up. And as soon as I put weight on it, the whole seat is flexing. The plastic of the whole seat is just bending. Let's see if I can get a better shot of that. All right, so as I sit in it, this whole seat, look at that. It just flexes. I can flex it with my hand. It's not that hot today, you guys. It's not even 80 degrees, and that kayak is getting all mushy. The Pelican seat, substantial. It's definitely better. You know, this is 50 bucks more, so maybe 70 bucks more. That's a no-brainer. I would buy that over this Kuna. Sorry, Kuna. Sorry, Lifetime. So I've given a lot of Lifetime kayaks a lot of praise over the years. The Tamarack is one of my favorite budget kayaks. The Tamarack version 2, I think, is just one of the most fantastic box store sit-on tops. It's so reasonably priced. This one is sort of a step backwards. They tried to make a simplified kayak. They tried to make it, you know, less expensive. It's not it, man. I'll tell you that right now. Like, this is, if you're gonna spend 300, spend 400, spend 100 bucks more, and you just get so much more out of it. I will say the whole design, as I paddle it, like how does the boat paddle and feel? It feels really similar to a Tamarack or to the Teton, which I'll review next. It's just the the ergonomics and the fitting. I bet if we flipped the two kayaks over, they'd almost be identical. You know, they're very simple 10-foot hull designs. The cost of making a kayak comes into what sort of accoutrements does it have? What sort of bells and whistles does it have on the deck? This one doesn't have much. And you know, I mentioned the seat pan in my last video when I did the walkthroughs. The seat pan was just a thin neoprene. The backrest was pretty flexy. It just clips on with these little clips. It just feels pretty chintzy. I mean, the paddle's good, and you know, if the ergonomics were better, I may like it a little bit more. But a few things sort of stuck out to me is that flexible seat, the lack of foot pedal adjustment, or lack of good foot pedal positioning, and then the flex of the plastic. All right, that was the short one. Let's go hop in the next boat. Let's go hop in the Teton. I thought one more thing I should show you guys. I mentioned it in the Pelican. I didn't mention it in this one because it's not as bad. But the water, see how I've got about a ½ inch more freeboard? So a little bit higher capacity on this one than in the Pelican. A little bit more breathing room. So what does that mean? That means, you know, probably a 230, 240 paddler could paddle this without taking on water. A little bit drier. My butt's not as wet as it was on the Pelican. I had them side by side real quick. I thought it'd be worth the time to flip them over and show you guys the bottoms. Look at how similar. This one has a little bit more keel, nicer, sharper entry, but very, very similar hull designs. And that's why that one paddles pretty decent. But when we flip it over, look at the deck of the Teton. Such a better seat, so many more bells and whistles. If you go back and watch the walkthrough video where I talk about all the features and compare these two, there's really no comparison. I mean, I'd pay the $100 just for the seat. Plus it's got rod holders, it's got bungees, it's got tracks, a bigger tank well, like with more room. Yeah, but let's go see how it paddles. While we're here talking kayaks, I thought it'd be worth take a moment to show you guys the dock entry, because not everyone has a fancy roller like we do here. So a couple ways to do it is, you know, line up your boat next to the dock. I usually just go ahead and park my butt right on the ground so I'm nice and low. And then I take my kayak paddle, I put it behind the seat. And what I do is I take one hand, I put it on the shaft of the kayak. I don't know if you can see that shaft of the kayak on the boat. The other hand, I put it on the paddle itself. And I just go ahead and slide myself over onto the kayak. So in doing that, I'm always putting weight onto the dock. It can't really flip over because this is sort of acting as an outrigger. As I push down on the paddle and I lean, the kayak stays nice and stable. And wow, this seat is so much more cozy. They've got these straps adjustments, and when you buy it, usually the seat's not set up. So how tight you tighten the seat is how high it lifts it. If it's real tight, it's gonna stay sprung. If you loosen those straps, it'll hang down a little bit. A lot of adjustment, a lot of under thigh support, and the best part is my feet hit just right. The ergonomics feel right. That's just for me. Again, you should sit in the boats in the shop. If you're going to the box store, have them pull them down, sit in the boats, and make sure it works for your size and your ergonomics. Let's go for a paddle. All right, that's what it looks like in the Teton. You know, I fill it out quite a bit. Again, I'm a big guy for a 10-foot boat. The first thing I notice is just the ergonomics. This boat is so much more comfortable. The seat on this, I've said it in every review, but the seat feels really, really good for such an inexpensive kayak. I don't know how they do it and keep the price so low at under $400, but yeah, man, it's great. I mean, the Teton is a good kayak for recreational paddlers, but also if you want to do fishing, it's got the tracks. It's got a little square spot between my legs where I could add another rod holder, and then 2 flush mounts behind the seat. The thing I like about these flush mounts is a lot of flush mounts go straight up in the air. These ones actually angle out to the side. So if I was trolling, or if I just want to like reach around and put my rod, it's a lot more ergonomic position to do so, as opposed to trying to get it straight up and down. Like I tried it in the Blade, it was just putting my camera mount in there, and it was just straight up and down. I was like, oh, so much quieter here on a weekday than it is on the weekend. The weekend, this place just can get mobbed. So again, a 10-foot boat that's kind of wide. You'll hear the water on the bow, clouds a little bit more water. Very maneuverable, but you'll notice with each stroke how the boat kind of wobbles back and forth. One thing I'll say about this one as opposed to the Pelican is when I stop paddling, it does continue to go straight and maintain its course, which that's so important. And I've always been a fan of the lifetime budget sit-on tops, and I still think that sticks true to today. Like this is The best sit on top I've paddled today by a long shot, like head and shoulders better. Even though I like the seat in the Pelican, I like a lot of the upgrades. I definitely like the foot pedals. These foot pedals are a little small. The lifetime overall paddling and value, I feel like they still take the cake. Let's make our way back to the dock. I'm gonna line them up real quick and then we'll just walk through the different boats one last time and I'll kind of give you my final thoughts on the 6 boats I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods this year. Just for my own curiosity's sake, I wanna see if I can stand up in this one. I definitely wouldn't have tried it in the Pelican, but this one feels pretty darn stable. I think I can actually stand up in it. I feel like this kayak deserves one last test. First thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna try to simply stand up in it. You know, it's always easier to stand up if you have some sort of a stand-up assist leash. This isn't necessarily meant for standing up, but I'm gonna give it a shot anyway, just for my own curiosity's sake. Oh yeah. So my feet are really close together, which makes it challenging, but that gives you a pretty good idea of the stability. I wonder if I could do a headstand. All right. All right, it's headstand challenge approved. Let's get off the water, let's wrap this thing up. So I went ahead and lined them up from my least favorite to my most favorite, and I'm just gonna give you guys a quick rundown. Obviously, you heard my review of the Kuna. I wasn't a fan. The redeeming qualities of this is it's cheap, it's 300 bucks, it has a good hull design, but I was not impressed with the way it paddled or the quality of the construction on the pieces and parts. Next up was the Blitz. I like what they did to the deck features. They really upgraded this from the old Bandit. I'm a fan of this boat for a lot of reasons. It felt playful, it felt sporty. It just was kind of on the low capacity side. So if you're 150 pounds, it's gonna be fine. If you're over 200 pounds, you might find it to be a little unstable, and the tracking on it was kind of marginal. Next up is the Field & Stream's Blade. Was a huge fan of this boat in my last video. On this video, there were some things that I didn't love. I didn't love how these are just stuck on and kind of peeled up. I also didn't love the seat. It's a new material and it just felt more flexy. I did like that it had additional features like the interior storage bag was nice, the hatch up here was nice, and it's still probably one of the best paddling boats I reviewed today. Next to that was the Pelican 100 XR, great paddling boat. And this one was more money. It was the most expensive at $469, but it does have a lot of features. It's got the little cell phone holder, which I showed you guys, plus a couple rodders. I like this boat a lot. I think it's a good value. I think Dick's will sell a pile of these boats, but I like this one more. The 12-foot length, the boat paddled faster, it tracked better, it felt more like a proper kayak. And believe it or not, I actually like the ergonomics of this seat. See how it had that nice contoured pan and that back band that sort of like wraps around and hugs your lower back? This really surprised me at how much I like. I mean, I like the Mustang 100, so of course, you know, it makes sense that I would like the 120, but it was definitely substantially better paddling than the 10-footers. And these two kind of have to tie for me because they're very different. Like if I was looking to get into recreational fishing or wanted to sit on top that I could fish from, or I could like take my dog or like, you know, throw a kid on, this boat is just awesome. Now, with that said, if it was my money, which one would I buy? I would probably go for the Mustang 120. I think it's just the most kayak-esque. It does have rod holders if somebody wanted to recreationally fish, but you could get in that kayak and actually cover some miles. Again, you guys, that's just my feedback from you know, a quick 15-minute paddle. If you've got lots of experience with any of these boats, I'd love to hear your opinion. Just leave a comment down in the comment section. We did a $300 and under review last year, and you guys were super informative, and we've had a great conversation going in that video. I'd love to create the same thing here. If you guys have any questions for me, leave those in the comment section. I will do my best to get to them. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, this is Dan from Headwaters, wishing you happy paddling. We'll see you in the next one.